The father was a member of the school violence prevention committee, yet his son brazenly assaulted a classmate right in the classroom. Woo Hyuk unleashed powerful punches as if intending to kill Soo Woo. He threw Soo Woo onto the teacher's desk and then pressed down on his throat to suffocate him. Many students witnessed this in the hallway, but absolutely no one dared intervene for fear of becoming Woo Hyuk's next victim. During the council meeting, the truth was blatantly twisted. Soo Woo was portrayed as the aggressor who attacked Woo Hyuk. Soo Woo saw that no student dared to testify for him. Even So Yeon, his crush, chose to ignore him. Disappointed, he packed his things and left, not forgetting to give the middle finger to express his extreme anger and disappointment at this supposedly most prestigious school in Korea. 2 weeks later, during Christmas, no one could have imagined that Soo Woo would be found dead, his body lying cold under the snow in the schoolyard. The people who discovered Soo Woo's body were students Jun Young and So Yeon. During questioning by the police, Seo Yeon was afraid to talk about the fight between Woo Hyuk and Soo Woo. This caused her long-lasting guilt and regret. Jun Young also fell into depression due to pressure from his mother, who suffered from emotional instability. He also wanted to die like Soo Woo. Fortunately, at the last minute, he was lucid enough to understand that he was too young to give up. Seo Yeon was lucky to have a very warm and caring family. Her parents were both caring and understanding, so she quickly regained her happiness. On the school's forum, students were buzzing with rumors that Woo Hyuk was the one who attacked Soo Woo. To protect the school's reputation, the administration quickly closed the case, but the police officer in charge didn't believe it. So, while Woo Hyuk was arrested for illegal street racing, she detained him in the interrogation room for questioning. His arrogant nature led him to call his powerful father. Just a few minutes later, his father and lawyer arrived at the police station and berated Officer Oh. He even threatened to fire her if she continued to pursue the case. After Christmas, everyone was busy celebrating the new year, so Soo Woo's case gradually faded into oblivion. Everyone believed it was simply due to academic pressure. However, a letter of accusation was left at So Yeon's doorstep. The letter's author claimed to be a witness to the night Woo Hyuk and his gang of thugs dragging Soo Woo to the rooftop, beating him up, and then pushing him down. It turned out the letter was sent by two girls the same age as So Yeon, Cho Rong, and Ju Ri. Ju Ri had witnessed the fight that night. They didn't dare report it directly to the police for fear of retaliation from Woo Hyuk's family. Furthermore, Seo Yeon's father was a police officer, which is why they remembered her. So Yeon was distraught and searched for the sender's identity. She didn't know what to do. Her mother helped her inside. She only knew the sender was a classmate, so she wanted to report it to the principal. But her father wanted her to focus on her studies, saying he would handle the matter. He then took the letter of accusation to the principal to discuss it. The principal didn't want the letter to be made public and damage the school's reputation, so he believed the students were exaggerating and writing a letter that distorted the truth. However, Seo Yeon's father couldn't hide the letter as the principal wished, as it was also considered evidence of the accusation. He and Officer Oh requested the school's assistance in reinvestigating the case. All they needed to do now was find out the identity of the student who wrote the letter. They had the students take a psychological test for adolescence. Later, at the newsroom, a reporter also received a similar letter of accusation, but it wasn't from Ju Ri, it was from the school security guard who had been fired by the principal. While gathering up fallen items, he angrily kicked the principal's office door and accidentally dropped the letter of accusation that Ju Ri had taped outside. So the security guard took the anonymous letter and sent it to a reporter. The next morning, Jun Young proactively waited for So Yeon to go to school together. She was afraid he might have suicidal thoughts, so she insisted he go to school with her. Unexpectedly, he actually came. Each student was called in for psychological testing. When it was Cho Rong's turn, Juri was afraid her friend would reveal the letter, so she reminded her not to talk nonsense. Cho Rong was very obedient. When talking to the police, she acted very naturally, not revealing anything suspicious. But when it was Juri's turn, she kept mentioning that Woo Hyuk was a bad person. This caught Officer Oh's attention. After school, the two accidentally ran into Woo Hyuk and his gang of bullies. Seeing the two of them together all the time, he took the opportunity to bully Juri. The girl's eyes glared at him with hatred, making him angry enough to throw a slipper at her face, scratching her. The boys laughed loudly and left, leaving the two girls so angry they wanted to cry. Just then, a man held out a tissue to Juri. He's a reporter who received a complaint letter, so he wants to approach the students at this school to investigate the case further. Inside the school, Seo Yeon goes to see Officer Oh and accidentally sees Juri's name in the notebook. She asks if Juri was the sender of the letter. She arranges to meet her friend at a bubble tea shop to talk. Cho Rong is friendly and wants to befriend Seo Yeon. Juri remains silent, afraid of revealing that she was the one who wrote the letter. When Seo Yeon asks about Christmas Eve, Juri is startled and tells tells So-yeon to pretend to be smart in front of everyone. This makes So-yeon very upset. Ju-ri realizes she's gone too far and runs away. She fears So-yeon has already become suspicious of her. Ju-ri contacts a journalist and agrees to an interview on the condition that she changes her voice and covers her face. At this time, the journalist is waiting for Woo-hyuk's father to appear and ask him about his son's fight, which angers him. He gets out of the car, grabs the journalist by the neck, and warns him not to touch his son. Then he pushed the man to the ground, unaware that he had fallen into a journalist's trap. The reporter then went to the principal to inquire about the letter. Seeing that the letter of accusation had fallen into the hands of the journalist, the principal was terrified. The addition of another complaint was something even Officer Oh and So-yeon's father hadn't anticipated. Immediately, the case was reported in the newspapers. The reporter released the letter and demanded that the police reinvestigate. Through the TV screen, Ji-hoon also saw the news. He was the school's heartthrob and a very close friend of Soo Woo. Coincidentally, he was also the admin of the school's page, the person So-yeon frequently contacted anonymously to talk about her worries and studies. Surprisingly, Ji-hoon's father was the legal advisor for Woo-hyuk's family. The news broke, turning Woo-hyuk from a violent person into a murderer. He was extremely upset because he hadn't killed Soo Woo as rumored. Meanwhile, Ju-ri hid under her blanket at home, watching and laughing with amusement. Suddenly, Ju-ri was asked to meet Cho-rong for a talk. Being disturbed in the middle of the night made Ju-ri extremely angry. Cho-rong wanted Ju-ri to go to the police station with her to publicly reveal her identity as the letter sender, as their letter had implicated many people. But Ju-ri, fearing her identity would be exposed, resolutely refused. During the argument, Ju-ri unintentionally said something hurtful to Cho-rong. Ju-ri didn't consider Cho-rong a friend. This hurt Cho-rong so much that she ran away. Overwhelmed with grief, she didn't pay attention to where she was going. She ran from an alley to a crossroads and was hit by a speeding car. Ju-ri, standing far away, was worried but chose to turn back. News of Woo-hyuk being the murderer made him the center of attention at school. Wherever he went, he was secretly filmed by cameras. Parents were making a fuss, putting pressure on the school because they thought the school was covering up for a rich kid. So-yeon, already suspicious of Ju-ri, immediately went to the infirmary to find her. Here, Ju-ri continued to hurl bitter words at So-yeon. If only she had bravely stood up and testified when she saw Soo Woo being beaten by Woo-hyuk, things wouldn't have come to this. This was So-yeon's biggest regret. Being reminded of it made her burst into tears as she left the infirmary. Her fragile heart made So-yeon think that everything that happened was partly her fault. She ran out of school, ignoring Jun-young calling her name. He had also been in a similar situation with his mother suffering from depression, so he deeply understood So-yeon. He kindly covered her with his jacket as she cried. Finally, Ju-ri went to visit Cho-rong. She sobbed uncontrollably, apologizing to her friend, but also begging her to die. Only then could Ju-ri's secret be buried, and she could live in peace. But when Ju-ri returned to school, she was withdrawn and unapproachable. Now that her only friend, Cho-rong, was in trouble, the other girls directed their bullying towards Ju-ri. They accused Ju-ri of being cruel and harming Cho-rong. Surrounded and accused by her classmates, Ju-ri was so shocked that she lost the ability to speak. The next day, she didn't dare go to school. Throughout class, So-yeon silently gazed at Ju-ri and Cho-rong's desks. After school, she was called over by a reporter to ask about the news regarding Soo Woo's case. This same reporter had spread the news about the letter that caused both Cho-rong and Ju-ri to suffer. Therefore, So-yeon hated him intensely. However, he argued that the students and the school were the real villains, because they only cared about whether Woo-hyuk killed Soo Woo, not how Soo Woo died. That's why the reporter exaggerated the story to uncover the truth. So-yeon interrupted him, saying she didn't need his help to find the truth. She would do it herself. Meanwhile, Officer Oh was still relentlessly pursuing the three bullies. She went to the bar and sat down in an empty seat. She confiscated all the drinks from the three men and drank them all herself. Then she asked them what they had done on Christmas Eve. Woo-hyuk and the person next to him insisted they couldn't remember what they had done. He only remembered that they had gone out together. When it was Dong-hun's turn, he was afraid of being implicated, so he stammered and wanted to leave. This infuriated Woo-hyuk. He slammed the table and stood up, threatening to hit someone, but Officer Oh grabbed him by the neck. She tried to persuade him again to confess what he had done on Christmas Eve. Only then could his innocence be proven. But he didn't need her help and left. Dong-hyun lingered and told Officer Oh that he wasn't with Woo-hyuk at the time, so he didn't know what they had done. Officer Oh wanted to ask for more details, but Dong-hyun was called away by Woo-hyuk, so he could only pretend to refuse her. Woo-hyuk's mother, seeing that her son was being harassed by the police, went to the police station and caused a scene. She berated Officer Oh and even threatened to sue the person who wrote the complaint letter, claiming that this person was a student at the school. The lawsuit significantly impacted impacted the school. At the beginning of class, students had to sit and listen to the principal's announcement, yawning repeatedly. The announcement revolved around the principal's desire to prevent students from spreading rumors about Soo Woo's case. Even yawning resulted in a deduction of points from the strict supervisor. Students who dared to contradict her had double points deducted. Seo-yeon angrily stood up and spoke directly to the teacher. Seo-yeon expressed her disappointment with the school for not finding the cause of the student's death, but instead making excuses to cover it up. This enraged the supervisor, who shouted, attracting the attention of all the students. The more furious she became, threatening to confiscate phones, the more cameras were raised. Provoked, the supervisor publicly revealed that Seo-yeon was the one who received the complaint letter but had pretended not to know anything. At this point, Seo-yeon decided not to hide it any longer. The girl admitted that when she received the letter, she didn't dare do anything but remain silent. But now, she would fight to the end to find out the truth. No sooner had she finished speaking than the supervisor slapped her in front of hundreds of people and hundreds of cameras. Then came a series of slaps, causing the students to rush in, trying to stop her, filming and taking pictures. This incident quickly reached the principal, causing him to panic. After watching the video, Seo-yeon's mother immediately rushed home, scolding her for not telling her. She wanted Seo-yeon not to suffer alone because they were a family. A family should share all joys and sorrows. Seo-yeon's mother wanted her father to immediately file a complaint on her behalf, but Seo-yeon stopped her. She wanted to use the video to force the principal to let her thoroughly investigate Soo Woo's case. Her father continued to stop her, saying it was an adult matter. This infuriated Seo-yeon. For the first time, she argued with her parents and stormed off. She didn't want to remain indifferent and live like a heartless person anymore. At this time, Ji-hoon stumbled upon a video of Seo-yeon being beaten. He replayed the part where she said she had to find the truth about Soo Woo's death. It seemed he shared her thoughts, so he used an anonymous account to proactively message Seo-yeon. They planned to set up a school trial, including suspects and witnesses, to find the truth. From that day on, Seo-yeon began reading law books. She wanted to become the prosecutor in that trial. During that time, Ji-hoon also devoted himself to studying law. Occasionally, they would text each other, exchanging ideas and encouraging each other. Seo-yeon studied diligently until she was exhausted, and her parents found out. But instead of scolding her, her father smiled and patted her shoulder proudly. Her mother, though angry, still took her to school to demand justice for her. The female supervisor who assaulted the student didn't dare come to school today. Only the principal spoke with her. He argued that Seo-yeon had insulted the teacher first, so they should resolve the matter as amicably as possible. But Seo-yeon's mother refused and argued fiercely with the principal, making him tremble. She even threatened to call the Ministry of Education to sue, frightening the school. Seo-yeon chased her mother outside and learned that her mother had done this to pressure the school, hoping they would stop bullying her. Thanks to her mother's intervention, Seo-yeon was able to force the principal to agree to hold a school trial. The supervisor was also summoned. Upon seeing the video of her slapping the student, she stood up and demanded that Seo-yeon delete the video. The principal angrily made her sit down. He tried to negotiate with Seo-yeon, but to no avail. Even the smartest student in the class spoke up in Seo-yeon's defense. The principal was forced to set a condition. If 500 students in the school agreed, the trial could begin. So Seo-yeon and her close friends immediately got down to business. Each of them split up to spread the word about the trial. The blonde girl used VIP tickets to EXO's concert to bribe quite a few female students. Afterward, they even cooked herbal soup to entice female students who dreamed of having a beautiful figure to sign a petition for a free weight loss soup. Initially, things were very difficult. The students were afraid of being implicated and ignored them. They looked down on Seo-yeon's efforts. When she was at her most discouraged, Ji-hoon came to find her. He didn't immediately introduce himself, but asked her about the steps in forming the trial panel and its operational procedures. His purpose was to make Seo-yeon realize that the core issue was that they had to question Woo Hyuk. He would be the defendant in the trial. Seo-yeon would be the prosecutor, accusing him. Ji-hoon would be Woo Hyuk's defense lawyer. Only through debate would it truly be a trial. To help Seo-yeon relieve the pressure, Jun-young proactively went to an internet cafe and used his skills to gain their support. Meanwhile, Ji-hoon used his charm to hold a concert and successfully collected many signatures from female students. Seo-yeon was very surprised. Now she truly believed that this boy was serious about holding a trial with her. At this time, Jo-ri received a summons from the court and was so scared that she went crazy and smashed things. She screamed and blamed Seo-yeon for revealing her identity. Everyone was at fault, but she, as a witness, was being criticized. While Seo-yeon and her group of friends were collecting 500 signatures to hold a trial, Jo-ri's mother and she recorded a video begging everyone not to criticize or bother the girl anymore. The girl was just a witness to the truth, but now she had become the villain in everyone's eyes, being bullied and sued. She was so shocked that she lost the ability to speak. Finally, Juri's mother affirmed that she would never let anyone drag her daughter to a school trial. At school, no teacher was willing to vouch for the school trial because the students were underage for a criminal trial. Just as the cheerful supervisor was about to report back to the principal, the homeroom teacher stepped forward and took responsibility. Like Seo Yeon's group of friends, she wanted the trial to take place to uncover the truth about Soo Woo's death. The storage room behind the school would be where the group of students discussed the trial. Everyone pitched in to clean it up. That night, Ji-hoon kept dreaming about his old friend. He woke up in the middle of the night and decided to tell his father that he would participate in the school trial. His father tried to dissuade him, but all his advice was ineffective against his determination. So, a lawyer had to go to the school to pressure the principal. But the principal couldn't do anything because the students had a video of a teacher assaulting someone. If he didn't allow the trial to take place, the video would be sent to the Ministry of Education, leading to a complicated legal case. Hearing this, the lawyer became even more determined to obstruct the trial. However, his son knew his father's character well, so he took a step ahead. He changed the trial date to an earlier date than planned. Afterward, everyone began discussing the preliminary trial procedures. First, they considered whether Woo Hyuk had an alibi. Second, what was his motive for the attack? Third, was the indictment letter true? But the problem was how to get Woo Hyuk and Ju-ri to attend the trial, so everyone had to try their best. Two guys in the group were tasked with approaching the thugs at the pizza shop. While Woo Hyuk was clutching his stomach and looking for a restroom, the other two started arguing. Sung Min suspected Dong Hyun had said something to the police. Dong Hyun, in his anger, inadvertently revealed that the two had left him alone and gone somewhere. The next day, something happened to Soo Woo. Sung Min angrily said that he and Woo Hyuk were drunk that day and couldn't remember anything. Jun Young reported the entire conversation to Ji-hoon, who was with Officer Oh. He wanted Officer Oh to protect Ju-ri from public opinion and accusations, hoping that this would give Ju-ri the courage to appear in court. Meanwhile, Seo Yeon and her group went to Ju-ri's house. When Ju-ri's mother learned they were part of the judging panel, she tried to chase them away, but Ju-ri unexpectedly asked her mother to let them in. At first, Ju-ri showed resentment towards Seo Yeon, but she gradually changed her mind. Seo Yeon was the first person to understand the injustice Ju-ri was suffering for daring to speak the truth. However, Ju-ri still didn't dare go outside for fear of social criticism. Due to the intense stress, Ju-ri made a harsh condition to Seo Yeon. She wouldn't testify unless Seo Yeon became a prosecutor. Unexpectedly, Seo Yeon agreed immediately. This caused Ju-ri to gradually abandon her resistance. However, Ju-ri's mother publicly released the video, causing a public uproar. Police Officer Oh was criticized for daring to pressure the witness. The trial was also at risk of being cancelled. At this moment, the male reporter once again approached Seo Yeon's group, but this time, he helped everyone publicize the trial. Only by using the press to spread awareness of the trial could the power of public opinion prevent it from being manipulated by the school. That evening, everyone went out to celebrate, but Ji-hoon separated to find Woo Hyuk. Ji-hoon wanted Woo Hyuk to participate in the trial under his protection. Ji-hoon believed Woo Hyuk didn't kill anyone, so he would do his best to defend him. However, this only fueled Woo Hyuk's anger. Woo Hyuk slapped Ji-hoon and inadvertently threatened to kill him, just as he had killed Soo Woo. When Woo Hyuk returned home, he was beaten and scolded by his father for causing trouble. Humiliated by his father's beating, he ran away from home. Not long after, a car pulled up in front of the gate. A masked man jumped out of the car, climbed over the wall, and sneaked into Woo Hyuk's house, setting it on fire. By the time Woo Hyuk received his mother's call, his house was surrounded by fire trucks. The scene was utter chaos. His beloved grandmother was trapped forever in the fire, leaving him heartbroken and wanting to rush in to save her, but unable to. The helpless, heart-wrenching cries of the wealthy family made Woo Hyuk realize that retribution was imminent. This incident quickly went viral on online forums, causing a flood of malicious comments about Woo Hyuk. Ji-hoon sighed and deleted each comment. Meanwhile, Woo Hyuk was going berserk, screaming and kicking at Ju-ri's door, further terrifying the already depressed girl. Woo Hyuk believed that all his tragedies were Ju-ri's fault. So Yeon stood in front of Ju-ri's house to protect her. Woo Hyuk, in a fit of rage, raised a potted plant, intending to vent his anger on So Yeon. At that moment, Ji-hoon rushed in to stop Woo Hyuk. The two wrestled on the ground. Meanwhile, So Yeon was chased away by Ju-ri's mother, who threw water at her. This made Ju-ri feel guilty, so she immediately ran downstairs but didn't dare go outside. The girl's mother only reacted that way because she loved her so much. So Yeon understood, so she repeatedly bowed her head and apologized to Ju-ri's mother. This scene shocked Ju-ri, who was inside the house. She realized So Yeon was in the same predicament as herself. Seo Yeon had done nothing wrong, yet she was criticized and forced forced to apologize. Even Woo Hyuk was speechless and felt guilty. This made him change his mind. He proactively went to find Ji-hoon and agreed to participate in the trial as a defendant. Soon after, someone claiming to be Soo Woo's older brother came to find Seo-yeon and showed her 2 movie tickets that his younger brother had given him. He assured her brother that he wouldn't do anything reckless because they had planned to go to the movies together. As the trial date approached, the jury actively selected students to testify. A friend, Woo Hyuk's ex-girlfriend, also wanted to participate. Ji-hoon felt that having this person participate would be useful in the future, but So-yeon disagreed. So-yeon claimed she was only there to get revenge on her ex-boyfriend and wasn't serious about the trial. Therefore, the jury hadn't yet decided whether to allow her to participate. On the way back, So-yeon hesitated for a long time before finally sending a message to Ju-ri, letting her know that the preliminary hearing was tomorrow. So-yeon wasn't forcing Ju-ri to attend, she just wanted her to see how they would uncover the truth. However, the school wasn't making things easy for the trial. They sent a list of students who would be present to testify to the parents so they could prevent their children from participating. Only So-yeon's mother remained unmoved. Other students were scolded and beaten by their parents for interfering in other people's affairs. The worst off was Jun-young, who was tormented by his agitated mother to the point of screaming. This was the first time he dared to resist her. He refused to let her hit him anymore and left. Having nowhere else to go, Jun-young had to sleep in the storage room. Ji-hoon witnessed this scene. Kind-hearted, Ji-hoon invited Jun-young to his house to sleep. Other friends had also been kicked out of their homes by their parents and were forced to hide in internet cafes or on the streets. Yet, they were all determined to fight for justice. In the middle of the night, Jun-young couldn't sleep, so he turned to talk to Ji-hoon. He was the first to see Soo Woo's face under the snow. At that moment, he saw a very peaceful expression, as if he had been freed. Therefore, Jun-young suspected that Soo Woo might also have done something reckless. This reminded Ji-hoon of a scene he had once witnessed where Soo Woo stood high up as if about to jump. The next day, before the trial, the group thought very few people would dare to attend. But when they went to court, they were surprised. Not only students, but also teachers and parents were present. Ji-hoon sat in the defense lawyer's chair. So-yeon was on the prosecution's side, accusing the defendant. Woo Hyuk's ex-girlfriend was also allowed to testify. However, the parents found the trial ridiculous, leading to an argument between the two sides. The class vice president had to mute the microphone to silence everyone. The vice president's mother wanted her son to leave the judge's seat immediately to avoid being implicated. Unexpectedly, he didn't hesitate to criticize her for being selfish. He then asked her to leave, causing her to angrily storm off. The other parents also gradually quieted down. Woo Hyuk took the defendant's seat. The trial began. Seo-yeon stood up and explained that the reason for the trial was to find the truth, not to accuse anyone. Before Soo Woo's death, he had missed 2 weeks of school due to a fight with Woo Hyuk. Therefore, in this trial, she wanted to prosecute Woo Hyuk. Woo Hyuk angrily countered that Soo Woo had provoked him first, which led to the fight. Ji-hoon also stood up to defend his client, arguing that it was unfair to accuse Woo Hyuk simply because he was a problematic student, so he will continue to defend Woo Hyuk until he is cleared of all charges. Ji-hoon invited Officer Oh to testify about the police investigation results. The police also concluded that the victim acted rashly. So Woo's autopsy report showed that the injuries on his body were from a fall and there were no signs of prior assault. Halfway through the trial, Ju-ri, wearing a hat that completely covered her face, unexpectedly arrived to observe. At this point, So-yeon was refuting the police's findings. Their evidence was the 2 movie tickets Soo Woo bought for himself and his brother. Why would someone wanting to do something rash plan a trip with family? The lawyers were unaware of the existence of this evidence, so the jury had to convene an emergency meeting. Ji-hoon argued that this evidence was useless because the mental state of someone with depression is always unstable. Therefore, it was normal for him to want to do something rash, but still buy movie tickets. So the victim's brother was called to testify. The older brother insisted that Soo Woo was harmed because the boy couldn't possibly have intended to do something reckless when he had already planned his future. However, when the lawyer questioned the witness, it was revealed that the 2 brothers had a strained relationship, even animosity. It was also the first time they had planned to go to the movies together. From this, it can be concluded that those who want to do something reckless always do unusual things. In Soo Woo's case, he went to the movies with his brother and got into a fight with Woo Hyuk. However, Soo Woo's brother argued that the fight wasn't unusual because it was simply his personality. It was this violent nature that caused the 2 to hate each other. The brother concluded that Soo Woo only harmed others, not himself. Therefore, Soo Woo would never seek a reckless path. Woo Hyuk, disheartened by this, left, forcing the trial to adjourn for 20 minutes. Ji-hoon followed Woo Hyuk, trying to calm him down. If you dare to confront public accusations conditions, you will quickly clear your name. Woo Hyuk, hearing this, agreed to return to the courtroom and recount the cause of the conflict. He explained that Soo Woo kept staring at him, making him uncomfortable. Soo Woo even said Woo Hyuk wasn't human, that his brain hadn't developed. Even now, Woo Hyuk still feels angry thinking about it. Ji-hoon concluded it was just a normal fight. So-yeon wanted to know what Woo Hyuk did on Christmas Eve. He replied that he went drinking with 2 friends. That was his alibi. Dong-hyun and Sung-min were then asked to stand up, but Woo Hyuk couldn't believe Dong-hyun had confessed that they hadn't gone drinking together that night. Woo Hyuk was lying. His alibi was also fake. Betrayed by his best friend, Woo Hyuk was furious and lunged towards him, but he was restrained. Dong-hyun, trembling, ran away. Woo Hyuk was so angry he refused to attend the trial, leaving Ji-hoon utterly helpless. However, the trial still had to proceed without the defendant present. Based on Dong-hyun's testimony, So-yeon concluded that Woo Hyuk was lying to cover up the truth. This accusation was immediately refuted by the lawyer. The lawyer requested the prosecutor to read the contents of the letter. The letter accused Woo Hyuk, Sung-min, and Dong-hyun of pushing Soo Woo down. So, was the letter fake? So-yeon then remembered that Dong-hyun said he wasn't with Woo Hyuk on Christmas Eve, but the letter accused all 3 of pushing the glass. So who was lying? Because of this question, So-yeon couldn't refute it. She had to reject Dong-hyun's testimony and end the preliminary hearing. Jury proactively sought out So-yeon, and her friend agreed to testify on the condition that she wouldn't encounter Woo Hyuk. If she appeared in court, he had to go inside. Furthermore, So-yeon had to absolutely trust Ju-ri. So-yeon agreed and wanted Ju-ri to admit that she was the one who wrote the letter, not Cho-rong, who was hospitalized. This frightened Ju-ri so much that she became furious. She would withdraw her agreement to participate in the trial. Meanwhile, Ji-hoon goes to look for Woo Hyuk and accidentally witnesses him being scolded by his father and dragged home. On the other hand, reporters accidentally uncover a shocking secret. The original administrator of the school's page was Soo Woo. Even after his death, the page continued to operate normally, indicating that the second-generation administrator was in charge. They didn't know this person was Ji-hoon. At this time, Ji-hoon was with Woo Hyuk. Ji-hoon offered Woo Hyuk some cotton to treat his wound, but he refused. However, Woo Hyuk still confessed that he was only drunk and had only been drinking with Sung-min, not Dong-hyun. Sung-min then took him home. However, while lying in his room, Woo Hyuk saw a dark figure leaving. Because he was drunk, he didn't remember anything more. At the same time, Dong-hyun arrived to see So-yeon. He insisted that he wasn't with his 2 friends that day, but had gone to a very popular bar during Christmas. After scrolling through social media of other bar patrons, So-yeon finally found a picture of Dong-hyun captured by a security camera. This proved his story was true, but the 3 of them were close friends, so why didn't Dong-hyun lie to protect Woo Hyuk? This prompted Sung-min to confront Dong-hyun. The 2 then got into a fight. During the brawl, Sung-min accidentally pushed Dong-hyun down the stairs, breaking his leg. Teachers and students were drawn to the commotion. Sung-min then fled. Dong-hyun was about to testify when he was pushed down and broke his leg. As a result, no one dared to testify anymore. The trial was in danger of being stopped because it endangered others. So-yeon was extremely discouraged. At this point, Ji-hoon admitted that he knew Woo Hyuk was lying, but he had ignored it. That way, he could quickly uncover the truth. He disregarded other people's lives for the sake of the truth. This disappointed So-yeon. Ji-hoon maintains Woo Hyuk's innocence, while So-yeon is certain he is guilty. The 2 officially confront each other. So-yeon realizes that Ji-hoon is serious about the trial. He plays the role of a lawyer fiercely defending his client, while she, as a prosecutor, suspects Ju-ri. To win, she must trust Ju-ri completely. According to Ju-ri's letter, the scene on the rooftop is indeed real. The letter mentions a clanging sound when Soo Woo was pushed against the railing. Where did that sound come from? To investigate, So-yeon directly climbed onto the railing. This caused the teacher and her best friend below to scream in fear. So-yeon remained calm, reassuring them and herself. Finally, she discovered the sound was from a broken metal plate on the railing. That night, So-yeon stood outside Ju-ri's house and asked her mother to tell Ju-ri that she believed in him. Ju-ri, upstairs, witnessed everything. The next day, the second trial took place. Ju-ri voluntarily appeared in court. Before that, So-yeon sincerely apologized to Ju-ri and promised to trust her completely. Ji-hoon also advised Woo Hyuk to stay in his room and not confront Ju-ri in court. After the conditions were met, Ju-ri agreed to appear in court. She swore that all her testimony was true. Then she sat in the witness chair and recounted the events. On Christmas Eve, she went for a walk at school and saw someone standing on the balcony. Curious, she quickly ran to the rooftop. She hid behind a door and witnessed Woo Hyuk and his friends using sticks to force Soo Woo back onto the balcony. Ju-ri confirmed that the 2 people with Woo Hyuk at that time were Sung-min and Dong-hyun. She even remembered the exact positions of each person. So Woo was standing on the balcony and Woo Hyuk pushed her down with a stick. Because she was so afraid of Woo Hyuk retaliating in the same way, Ju-ri didn't dare report report it to the police. Now, she burst into tears, blaming herself for not being braver so she could have saved Soo Woo. After the witness testimony, So Yeon showed the video she had verified on the rooftop. In Ju Ri's letter, she mentioned a rustling sound that perfectly matched the metal plate on the railing. That night, So Woo must have been pushed onto the railing and stepped on the metal plate to create that sound. However, Ji-hoon didn't believe Ju Ri because the rattling sound of the metal plate was very faint. It couldn't have been heard clearly from a distance, unless Ju Ri had also stepped onto the railing with the intention of doing something reckless. But he didn't expose this because he was afraid of hurting Ju Ri. At the next trial, the principal appeared, but he didn't come to testify. Instead, he ordered the students to disperse. Otherwise, it would be considered disturbing the peace in the school. Seo Yeon immediately questioned the principal about why So Woo was disciplined when he was the one who was beaten. The principal blamed the students because none of them had come forward to testify at the time. Ji-hoon publicly exposed the wrongdoing of the school's anti-violence committee. At that time, the school's page was buzzing with information about Woo Hyuk beating So Woo, but the school didn't investigate and hastily convicted him. The principal, upon hearing this, could only remain silent and angrily leave. Later, Dong-hyun, injured, appeared as a witness. Woo Hyuk was agitated but restrained, unable to do anything. Dong-hyun had evidence that he wasn't with Sung-min and Woo Hyuk. The situation would have been fine if he had continued his testimony. Woo Hyuk had previously admitted to killing So Woo. Upon hearing this, Woo Hyuk became enraged and tried to punch Dong-hyun. However, his attempts only made him more vulnerable to being restrained by his friends. The trial was forced to adjourn and went to find Sung-min to recount the events of the trial. The trial resumed, but Ji-hoon hadn't returned yet. In court, Dong-hyun continued to recount the events after Christmas Eve. That day was the school's funeral for So Woo, but the three members of Woo Hyuk's group had sneaked out to play. At that moment, Woo Hyuk suddenly became serious and said he had accidentally killed So Woo. He claimed that Woo Hyuk's motive for murder was because So Woo had insulted him, saying his brain wasn't developed. Hearing this, all the students murmured, believing everything was clear. Woo Hyuk was the culprit. Jun Young then questioned the witness about his friendship with Woo Hyuk. Dong-hyun lost his composure and said he intensely hated Woo Hyuk. The lawyer could easily argue that the accusation was based on personal vendetta. Therefore, the witness's testimony was dismissed. Immediately afterward, Ji-hoon returned to take over the lawyer's role, bringing along Sung-min as a witness. Sung-min then revealed that Woo Hyuk's earlier words to Dong-hyun were just a joke meant to scare Dong-hyun. Sung-min also knew that So Woo deliberately provoked Woo Hyuk because he wanted to use the financial conglomerate's heir as an excuse to meet a certain man. When So Woo was alive and working as an admin for the school's page, he witnessed Woo Hyuk bullying others. He posted a picture of the cover of the VIP booklet on the page, along with a caption subtly alluding to those who, thanks to their parents' money. This booklet belonged to Ji-hoon's father. This meant that Ji-hoon's father had colluded with the school to get Woo Hyuk admitted. The very next day, he came to the school to see So Woo. So Woo wasn't surprised and got into the car with him to go to the riverbank. Ji-hoon's father wanted So Woo to delete the picture of the VIP booklet because inside the booklet was not only Woo Hyuk's profile, who had been helped to get into prestigious schools. So Woo had taken pictures of everything. So Woo was shocked when Ji-hoon's father told him to delete the picture. Therefore, he threw his phone containing the evidence into the river. Now, all the evidence threatening his legal counsel has disappeared. Only So Woo knows this secret. So Woo wants to see how Ji-hoon's father will handle him. Back at the trial, Ji-hoon's father is also present, but he hides in a corner. He knows the mysterious man So Woo wants to meet is him. Because Sung-min has testified that everything was just a joke, Ji-hoon has a point to declare Woo Hyuk innocent. The next witness is a junior student. Previously, he was walking without looking where he was going and accidentally knocked over Woo Hyuk's milk carton. Woo Hyuk then used money to silence the boy's parents. Now, with the court of justice, the boy wants Woo Hyuk to apologize, but Woo Hyuk is indifferent, saying he deserved to be hit. So Woo Hyuk is immediately dumped on the head by the boy. Woo Hyuk goes berserk and tries to attack. His friends hold him down, preventing him from doing anything. Based on Woo Hyuk's lack of remorse for hitting someone, So Yeon accuses him of potentially harming So Woo. However, the second trial ended without any clear conclusion. After the trial, Ji-hoon asked Sung-min to stay and talk. There, he learned that Woo Hyuk's father was violent. Not only was Woo Hyuk beaten, on Christmas Eve, Woo Hyuk got drunk because he was so upset about family matters. When Sung-min took Woo Hyuk home, he saw a mysterious man coming out of Woo Hyuk's room, a business partner of his father. At this time, Woo Hyuk returned from the trial, upset because he had milk spilled on his head. Now, seeing his father yelling at his mother, he angrily shouted at his father and stormed into the house. Meanwhile, So Yeon received a call from So Woo's older brother. When she arrived, he gave her his younger brother's phone and mentioned that So Woo had received 5 calls on Christmas Day. So-yeon wrote down the 5 phone numbers and asked someone to investigate. It turned out they were all numbers for public telephone booths. Because she loved Woo-hyuk so much, his mother went to Ji-hoon and revealed that on Christmas Day, she had been beaten by her husband and had to ask her son to take her to the hospital. But Woo-hyuk was afraid that revealing this would damage his father's reputation and that his mother would be beaten even more. Ji-hoon promised her that he would help clear Woo-hyuk's name, but she had to tell him the true identity of Woo-hyuk's father's business partner. So-yeon's group followed the phone numbers. At the last one, she discovered it was opposite an old man's shop, so everyone rushed in to explain the situation who were at the telephone booth on Christmas night. The old man said that a student was sitting in the booth crying a lot that night. However, when So-yeon showed him photos of the students, the old man couldn't recognize anyone in the pictures. Meanwhile, Ji-hoon proactively approached So-yeon's father to inquire about the arson at Woo-hyuk's house. Initially, the father refused to provide police information about the case to the high school student. Ji-hoon explained that the arsonist could testify that Woo-hyuk was home sleeping on Christmas Eve and therefore couldn't have been on the rooftop pushing Soo Woo. Ji-hoon also learned that Woo-hyuk's father's business partner was a fireworks maker. Hearing this, So-yeon's father was startled and asked him where he obtained this confidential information. Ji-hoon didn't immediately reveal anything. Ji-hoon and the police made a deal. The very next morning, Woo-hyuk's father was arrested at their home. Woo-hyuk witnessed his father's arrest and was extremely distraught, not knowing what to do. However, his mother remained unusually calm, as if she had finally relieved herself of a long-held burden. At the group's base, So-yeon informed everyone about 5 suspicious phone booths and the witness, an old man. However, he couldn't remember the face of the person at the last booth. Upon hearing this, Ji-hoon's expression suddenly changed, as if he had known about it for a long time. He then received a call from Woo-hyuk and immediately left. When he arrived, Ji-hoon frankly told Woo-hyuk that his mother had told him about being abused by her husband. That's why Ji-hoon called the police to arrest Woo-hyuk's father. Woo-hyuk was furious, feeling that a stranger like Ji-hoon had no right to interfere in his family matters. The more he spoke, the angrier he became, and he physically attacked Ji-hoon. Ji-hoon didn't get angry. Instead, he proactively undressed, revealing the wounds inflicted by his father. With tears in his eyes, Ji-hoon recounted how his father had beaten his mother to death right in front of him. Later, Ji-hoon was rescued by the police and taken to an orphanage. At that time, his legal advisor was still a young lawyer handling his father's case. Seeing the boy's pitiful situation, he took pity on him and went to the orphanage to pick Ji-hoon up. Although he was cared for attentively by his adoptive father, the trauma of the past still haunted Ji-hoon. Therefore, he understood Woo-hyuk's fear of domestic violence. Hearing this, Woo-hyuk gradually calmed down and left in shame. At the same time, his mother decided to go to the police station to report her husband's wicked deeds. Upon returning, she didn't say a word, but forced her son into the car and wanted him to go abroad to start a new life. Immediately afterward, the news broke and spread across the newspapers. The chairman of the finance company conspired with a firework maker to blow up his own house. They collected the entire insurance payout from his mother. Immediately, Woo-hyuk's family became the target of public criticism. His friends worried that Woo-hyuk would flee because of this. Without him as the defendant, after piecing together all the events, Officer Oh began to suspect Ji-hoon's connection to Soo Woo. So, she contacted reporters to investigate Ji-hoon's past. She was shocked to discover that Ji-hoon and Soo Woo had been together in an orphanage. The two children were very close until Ji-hoon was adopted by a legal advisor, would want to defend the suspect in his best friend's murder at this moment. Ji-hoon was trying to recall the painting he saw with Soo Woo at the exhibition. At that moment, Soo Woo suddenly said that the little bird without a companion was the most pitiful. So Ji-hoon tried entering the password, loneliness. Unexpectedly, he unlocked a mysterious folder on Soo Woo's computer. From there, he accidentally discovered the VIP access card. So that very night, he ran to Woo-hyuk's house and knocked on the door. But Woo-hyuk had already gone to the airport with his mother. Ji-hoon didn't give up. He repeatedly sent messages reminding Woo-hyuk not to abandon the trial. The third trial took place the next day. Fortunately, Woo-hyuk overcame his mother's wishes and came to continue as the defendant. This time, So-yeon's father testified as a witness. He kept his promise to Ji-hoon and didn't hide anything about the arson. After taking the oath, he began to recount the story. The arson wasn't for insurance compensation. Woo-hyuk's father wanted to build a new villa but was opposed by the neighbors. Furthermore, his company didn't have enough money to compensate for the land, so he resorted to this extreme measure. Woo-hyuk hired a firework maker to set his house on fire. Firework makers can control the size of the flames and prevent them from spreading to neighboring houses. Once his house was burned down, Woo-hyuk could openly build a new one. However, during the firework making process, process, the maker made a technical error, resulting in Woo Hyuk's grandmother's death. Yet, the firework maker himself was a witness, proving Woo Hyuk was home asleep on Christmas Eve. This single detail alone was enough to exonerate him. But why did Juri write a letter accusing Woo Hyuk? Furthermore, other classmates also agreed with that viewpoint. Woo Hyuk didn't know why. At this point, Ji-hoon loudly stated that it was because of Woo Hyuk's inherent wickedness and his bullying of the weak. Woo Hyuk bullied others to satisfy his own fears. He didn't dare to defy him, so he vented all his anger on his peers. Being bullied so much caused his friends to resent Woo Hyuk. So when tragedy struck Woo Hyuk, they all wanted to corner him and make him disappear. Hearing this, Woo Hyuk wasn't angry. Instead, he felt fear and regret. Now he deeply understood the meaning of karma. Now he didn't know what to do to make amends. He could only sincerely apologize with tears in his eyes. The entire hall fell silent when suddenly Juri rushed out. She repeatedly insisted that she had personally seen Woo Hyuk push Soo Woo. Ji-hoon was forced to expose Juri's depression. Juri, bullied by Woo Hyuk, had developed hallucinations and wanted to do something reckless, so he offered her a personal apology. Hearing the apology she had longed to hear, Juri was so shocked that she fainted. When Juri woke up and saw So-yeon beside her, she said that even though the letter was fake, she really saw Soo Woo standing on the rooftop railing. But because she had been deceived, So-yeon no longer believed Juri. She also gradually lost faith in herself. However, she soon received a screenshot of a message Juri had sent to the school's page. What Juri messaged matched exactly what she had said about the person running down the stairs. This made So-yeon gradually believe that Juri wasn't lying. The person who sent that message to So-yeon that the truth hadn't been found yet, and to encourage her fighting spirit, she went near the stairs Juri mentioned and discovered a car nearby. The car's black box could record the person running down. Her best friend successfully retrieved the dashcam footage for So-yeon. The video did indeed show someone frantically running down the stairs. So-yeon couldn't identify who it was, but she now believed Juri was right. At this point, Ji-hoon's identity as So Woo's best friend was exposed by Officer Oh. Seeing Ji-hoon's confession, Officer Oh asked him why he was defending Woo Hyuk. Ji-hoon didn't give a clear answer, only telling her that Woo Hyuk wasn't the murderer of So Woo, but he didn't mention who the real killer was, because he needed more time to find out why So Woo did something so reckless. Because they had found new evidence, So-yeon suggested that the jury reopen the trial. Although Woo Hyuk was innocent, they couldn't conclude that So Woo did something reckless. Everyone who watched the video saw it clearly, so they all agreed to hold a fourth trial. The supervisor, seeing the announcement that the trial was still ongoing, angrily said she would inform the principal. He was only the acting principal. Fearing this would jeopardize his position, he called legal advisor Lee for help. Unexpectedly, this backfired. Seeing how incompetent he was as principal, Lee decided to dismiss the current principal on behalf of the financial group and replace him with the former principal. At the same time, Cho-rong woke up. The main female group immediately went to visit her, but she also thanked So-yeon's group for not abandoning Juri. Jun-young's mother's uncontrollable illness worsened. She not only smashed things, but also said hurtful things to him, causing him to run out of the house. He thought he would have to sleep on the street again, but he met Ji-hoon once more. Ji-hoon offered him a place to sleep. Here, Jun-young noticed that Ji-hoon's backpack was very similar to the backpack of the man who ran down the stairs. But because he wasn't sure, Jun-young didn't ask. While Seo-yeon was desperately trying to find out the man's identity, the headmaster announced that the trial had to be stopped. Because the previous trial had proven Woo Hyuk innocent, there was no reason to prolong it further. Any student who dared to resist would have points deducted from their academic record. Even the students who participated in the previous trial were suspended from school for a week as a deterrent, proving that the headmaster dared to threaten and act. But this didn't diminish So-yeon's fighting spirit. Her parents also supported her sense of justice. So-yeon thought the other students were also suspended for a week, but when she spoke to the now fired headmaster, she learned that the person who suggested the new headmaster suspend the students was Ji-hoon's father. Currently, only Ji-hoon is still allowed to attend school normally. She confronted Ji-hoon, accusing him of being just like everyone else, relying on his parents' power. But Ji-hoon was completely unaware. Once he found out, he felt guilty and questioned his father, asserting that he would also take a week off from school if his friends were punished and that the trial would proceed as planned. The fourth day of the trial arrived quickly. Because the school had warned that students who came to observe would have points deducted, the auditorium was almost empty. Nevertheless, the trial had to proceed as scheduled. After the opening remarks, the witness was brought in. It was the art teacher who had taught So Woo, and the teacher had inadvertently learned that So Woo was the administrator of the school's page. So Woo was an introvert. He was very lonely, but shy about making friends. So he created the page to message people, understand their thoughts, and help them get justice. Now, his best friend is is in charge of the page, but the art teacher doesn't know who that is. The second witness invited to the trial was the former principal. He had been dismissed and had nothing left to lose. He publicly revealed information about the VIP booklet, a list of wealthy students who used money to buy grades and get into the prestigious school. Soo Woo accidentally discovered this secret and even posted the cover of the VIP booklet on the page. That's why, when he clashed with Woo Hyuk, he was accused of causing trouble. The legal advisor then used that as leverage to force Soo Woo to transfer schools. The legal advisor was immediately summoned to court. He denied the principal's accusations, claiming both the use of money to buy grades and the VIP booklet were unfounded. He was so confident because he thought the evidence Soo Woo had photographed had been thrown into the river. Unexpectedly, Soo Woo still had a copy on his computer, which Ji-hoon found. Now, Ji-hoon didn't act against his conscience just because the man before him was his adoptive father. He directly posted the list of students who bought grades. Then, with tears in his eyes, he confronted his father, accusing him. Even so, the legal counsel firmly denied the evidence, claiming it was fabricated because anyone could concoct it. To verify this evidence, the jury had to adjourn for 30 minutes. During that time, So-yeon accidentally met the old man who ran the convenience store. He had come to the school to find her because he remembered the student crying in the phone booth. So-yeon led him into the car in front of her friends. The old man pointed in one direction, and it was none other than Ji-hoon. This truth shocked So-yeon. A series of questions arose, along with memories of a smart and friendly boy named Ji-hoon flashing before her eyes. But instead of hastily accusing him of being Soo Woo's culprit, she wanted him to sit in the witness chair and recount the whole truth. At this point, Ji-hoon didn't want to hide it from his friends anymore. He admitted that he was Soo Woo's best friend, but he asked everyone to give him a day to prepare. And so everyone dispersed, ending the day's trial. After school, Jun-young went home and met his father. This was the first time his father had come to pick him up from school. This felt very strange to him. During lunch, his father told him that his parents had decided to move out and live separately, giving each other space to heal. So his father hoped he would come home to live with him. Actually, as a man, being caught between his wife and son was very difficult. He couldn't pay much attention to his son. Luckily, Jun-young understood his father. He didn't blame his parents. Now he felt very warm because his father cared about him. So-yeon returned home, her mind constantly preoccupied with the case and Ji-hoon. Could he be the one who pushed her best friend down the stairs? While she was thinking, she received a call from her best friend arranging a meeting. The three of them gathered at their usual cafe. It was then that the blonde girl admitted that the grade-buying scheme was real. She was one of the students who used that method. She only dared to say it now because she was ashamed. She felt unworthy of studying with such students as So-yeon. So-yeon was momentarily stunned. Feeling utterly disheartened, she went to school and met Ji-hoon. He stood silently in the courtroom, knowing that the next day he would be the main character there. Back home, Ji-hoon bravely stood before his father and declared that the next day he would confess all of his father's crimes. His father was both angry and helpless, but he couldn't use any means to stop his son because he truly loved Ji-hoon. The next day, the final trial took place. This time, Ji-hoon was the witness. He began recounting his most painful memories of past abuse. Having lived together in an orphanage, he quickly became close to Soo Woo. On Christmas Eve, he was the one on the rooftop with Soo Woo. Before that, Ji-hoon had called Soo Woo 5 times from 5 different phone booths. Each place held an unforgettable memory for Ji-hoon. The first was his old house. The second was the police station where he was rescued. The third was his mother's funeral home. The fourth was where her ashes were kept, a place that made him cry a lot. The last was the phone booth in front of the old man's house. Ji-hoon called Soo Woo so many times because he had received a text message from Soo Woo asking Ji-hoon why a person should continue living. This question showed that Soo Woo's mental state was unstable. Ji-hoon feared Soo Woo might do something rash, so he immediately rushed to the school. Here, he found Soo Woo sitting on the rooftop railing. Knowing Soo Woo had bad intentions, Ji-hoon tried his best to dissuade him. But Soo Woo angrily told Ji-hoon that his father was a very wicked person. To Ji-hoon, his father was like a saving light in his dark life. So when Soo Woo compared his father to garbage, Ji-hoon became extremely angry. Ji-hoon ignored his friend and turned to leave. However, Soo Woo suddenly stood up and threatened Ji-hoon that if he continued to leave, Soo Woo would jump down. Soo Woo went to that extent to make Ji-hoon realize the evil face of his adoptive father. But Ji-hoon was so angry that he coldly told Soo Woo to do whatever he wanted. After saying that, Ji-hoon ran down the stairs without looking back. The thing he feared most had happened. The next day, his best friend lay motionless under the snow. At first, Ji-hoon blamed himself for being thoughtless, causing his friend so much pain that he did something foolish. But when he took over the school's page, he realized his friend's behavior was strange. Soo Woo kept posting cryptic messages about the evil existing in the school. Therefore, Ji-hoon suspected that the dark side of the school was what drove Soo Woo to the rooftop. So, Ji-hoon decided to organize a school trial with So-yeon to clear Woo Hyuk's name and investigate the real reason why Soo Woo lost faith in life. That's how it all happened. However, Ji-hoon still confessed to intentional murder. He explained that he knew Soo Woo was mentally unstable that night and intended to do something reckless, but he didn't stop him and let him do it. Jun-young immediately stood up to defend Ji-hoon because he saw that after Soo Woo's death, Ji-hoon went to the crime scene and cried. This proved that he didn't intentionally abandon his friend. It was all due to overwhelming emotions. At this point, the legal counsel also joined the trial to protect his son. Because of Ji-hoon, he accepted and admitted all his crimes. It turns out, Soo Woo chose death to expose his wrongdoing. He helped the children of the financial conglomerate buy grades. Woo Hyuk's family was just one example. He also manipulated exam answers and leaked exam questions. When Soo Woo learned the truth, he forced him to transfer schools, but Soo Woo refused. Seeing Soo Woo's stubbornness, he manipulated the anti-bullying committee to portray Soo Woo as a troublemaker, forcing him to drop out. He was driven to desperation, with no classmates to testify for him, so he left school in despair. But he couldn't have foreseen Soo Woo's powerful counterattack. The boy used death to express his outrage, to expose the crimes of the financial conglomerate and the legal advisors who aided this. Today, he admits all his crimes because he has lived in fear and guilt for so long. Secondly, he didn't want his son Ji-hoon to blame himself. Ji-hoon was absolutely not the reason Soo Woo was pushed onto the rooftop. At this moment, Ji-hoon's eyes welled up with tears as he looked at his adoptive father. He felt both reproach, pity, and gratitude for telling the truth. The mock trial was fake, but it exposed real crimes. In the end, Ji-hoon's father accepted the prison sentence as punishment for his mistakes. The principal was arrested for collusion and bribery. The powerful financial conglomerate also faced legal consequences. The mock trial ended, and the students returned to their normal school lives. Seo-yeon overcame her guilt towards Soo Woo and opened her heart to Jun-young's feelings. Woo Hyuk reformed and stayed in Korea, working part-time at a convenience store to support himself. Best friends Cho-rong and Ju-ri hugged each other and reconciled. The blonde girl decided to retake the entrance exam and use her academic abilities to get into the school. And Ji-hoon finally resolved the doubts in his heart. It seems that the mock trial is also a trial of each person's conscience. Only when you bravely look into the darkness within your soul can you resolve it. The film ends here. Goodbye and see you again.